When we examine political messaging from the 20th century, the mechanics of persuasion are obvious. We recognize state sponsored posters and broadcasts as deliberate, calculated threats. Yet, as we scroll through our phones today, we process that same strategic intent as a natural occurrence. We assume that viral content bubbles up from the grassroots. We treat it as participatory culture, something created by peers and spread spontaneously through a shared digital landscape. This creates a significant blind spot. Because we are the ones choosing to hit the share button, we fail to perceive the intense engineering behind the media we are distributing. Beneath the casual aesthetic of a trending post lies a rhetorical payload. These are calibrated pieces of content designed to alter perception and drive specific behaviors, hidden in plain sight. To understand how these payloads operate, we need to trace the vocabulary of internet marketing back to its origins in the 1990s, and then look at the mechanical framing data emerging from modern conflict zones. When we treat these payloads as organic, we allow state actors to leverage our own social credibility to distribute their messaging. We become the unwitting infrastructure for the very propaganda we might otherwise reject. For decades, authoritarian regimes relied on the metaphor of contagion to describe systemic threats. By labeling ideas or populations as parasites and plagues, they could invoke a sense of visceral horror to justify state action. In the mid-1990s, the marketing industry repurposed the pathogen as a blueprint for brand growth. This strategy reframed the mechanism of infection as a tool for rapid, low-cost scale. Early internet companies tamed the concept of the virus. They stripped away the connotations of disease and reframed uncontrollable exponential replication as the primary metric for commercial success. This marketing-led shift rewired how we discuss information. Language that once signaled a systemic threat now characterizes digital success and user engagement. Because virality is now celebrated as a marketing triumph, we lack the linguistic tools to describe it as a malicious infection. We have conditioned ourselves to applaud the mechanisms of our own manipulation. This domestication also neutralized scientific vocabulary. In 1976, evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins introduced the meme as a unit of cultural replication, an idea that competes for space in human minds, much like a gene competes in a gene pool. Today, that biological concept has been diluted into a colloquial term for any catchy image macro, visual trope, or joke shared online. This semantic shift stripped the meme of its original meaning. The public understanding lost the connotation of a replicator that uses humans as survival machines to spread itself. This softened definition acts as a rhetorical shield. When highly engineered political payloads are packaged as memes, they are processed as harmless pieces of web culture rather than targeted influence operations. The death of memetics as a rigorous science provided perfect camouflage. It allows weaponized messaging to hide behind the facade of grassroots sharing. To see how this architecture functions in practice, we can examine the digital strategies deployed during the 2011 Syrian conflict. The Assad regime's social media output relied on specific visual frameworks, prioritizing themes of unity and humanity. They frequently distributed images of the First Lady comforting citizens or the President engaging in diplomatic activities. This rhetoric is calibrated to project state normalcy. By focusing on these images, the regime attempts to erase the domestic opposition and suggests that life continues as usual under their leadership. The Syrian coalition utilized a different tactical approach. Their digital output relied on emotional and human interest frames to highlight the conflict's costs. The coalition focused on stark imagery of civilian displacement to document violence and demand international support. By prioritizing a visceral human interest frame, they leveraged the speed of emotional processing, prioritizing immediate empathy over slower critical evaluation of political claims. None of these images are spontaneous memes. They are meticulously constructed visual payloads deployed by competing factions to achieve dominance over the international narrative. This reliance on precise visual framing is a systemic feature of modern warfare. We see the same strategic divide in the 2012 Gaza conflict. During this engagement, the Israeli Defense Forces leaned heavily on analytical frames. Their digital outreach prioritized charts and infographics tracking rocket trajectories and quantifiable threats. Hamas deployed emotional casualty frames. Their network output focused on images of Palestinian civilians, mirroring the strategy used by opposition forces in Syria. This reveals a stark psychological asymmetry. One side attempts to capture attention by presenting analytical proof, while the other triggers immediate emotional shock to dominate the news cycle. Political actors select these rhetorical frameworks because they trigger predictable reactions from foreign audiences. They are not merely sharing updates, they are engineering responses. These visual frames are explicitly calibrated to exploit the underlying code of social media platforms. Data shows that images utilizing the emotional or human interest frame generate the highest overall network velocity. They are shared faster and further than any other type of content. However, these casualty frames present a paradox. They actively suppress the like metric. Users rarely click an approval button when viewing images of human suffering. For the propagandist, a drop in likes is irrelevant. The emotional shock drives shares and comments, the exact metrics that distribution algorithms prioritize to keep users engaged and amplify the post's reach. This is a calculated trade-off. Propagandists sacrifice metrics of approval to hack the platform's distribution engine. It proves that these images are not creative expressions, but distribution paylouts. Viral propaganda is a precise system. It matches highly specific visual frames to algorithmic incentives to ensure maximum distribution. Relying on marketing jargon like memes and virality leaves us vulnerable. These terms were designed to sell products, and they obscure the reality of 21st century information warfare. When we remove the marketing illusion, the mechanical reality of our social feeds becomes clear. The content we consume is driven by raw network incentives rather than human connection. To defend against modern propaganda, society must strip away the rhetoric of organic virality. We have to analyze these visual payloads as engineered attempts to influence our behavior by targeting our basic human empathy.